Welcome, guys. We are here, 93.5 CHMR-FM, straight from the booth here on Memorial Campus. It's Monday, March the 23rd, I do believe. We're joined in here live in studio today with Taedy O'Rourke. Taedy, how you doing, my man?
Good, Theo. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Folks, for those of you who are tuning in, you can always check out all of our information on Facebook. Just search up Varsity Life in your search bar. We have a lot of old interviews happening there, lots of good stuff. However, it's been sort of dormant as of late. We've had recently, the biggest news is a switch. So if you had normally been listening to this show on Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m., well, sorry to say, we don't have that anymore. Hopefully you found your way here to the 4 p.m. showing. For those of you who just happen to be listening right now on CHMR, this is us. We're going to be here basically for the rest of the semester. Who knows, maybe into the summer. The future is uncertain. But today we have Taedy O'Rourke, fifth-year player, veteran, Memorial University soccer player, and captain. Was it captain you were as well, Taedy?
Yeah, I suppose you could call me the de facto captain behind Matthew Hamlin, yeah.
Matthew Hamlin, okay. And so we got a lot of cool stuff going. Taedy and I are going to be talking a little bit of a Q&A. We're going to be talking MUN Soccer, maybe even a little bit of what's been going on around the MUN Memorial University Seahawk universe. And maybe a little bit of stuff for the future, as I know, Taedy, you are very involved in soccer, and you may have a lot of things up your sleeve for the summer. Who knows?
I hope so. Well, I'm coaching right now as well as playing. I'm doing the St. John's U18 soccer side, so, that keeps me busy alongside, of course, Mount Pearl Challenge Cup, which is my club team.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Well, folks, we got about 6 minutes left here before we have to go to our general 10-minute break. So why don't we just hop right in here, Taedy? Let's it's a little bit. Let's say give us a little bit, a minute and a half. Who are you? What you got? What you bring to the plate? Who is Taedy O'Rourke?
All right. My name is Taedy O'Rourke. I'm a fifth-year athlete here at Memorial University. I suppose I started my tenure back in would have been 2009, I guess. I took a couple years hiatus in between that point, but I guess I've enjoyed my athletic stint, especially in the last 2 years. I think our program has been developing in really, really positive strides. With the introduction to Karen Murphy, I think it's going in a very good direction. She's a bit of a doer, so programs, they may seem to be changing a bit, but recruitment is going to be on the up, hopefully, and it'd be nice to see, I guess, some other players, from outside of Newfoundland coming to the Seahawks team. A bit about myself. I'm 27 now. I was born in Dublin, Ireland. Moved here when I was about 2 years old with my family. So my father didn't know anything about hockey. He just stuck me in soccer naturally, right? And then, of course, whenever I was old enough, he put me on the rugby pitch. So I've been playing soccer since I was 5 years old. Started playing rugby then when I was 13 or 14. I really enjoyed that, and in actual fact, I quit the game of soccer around the age of 18 to play focused rugby. I would say up until I was about 22 years old, which is when I started with the Seahawks.
That is very in-depth, very to the point. I like, I just threw the ball in your court, and you've been dribbling around me like crazy. I like that. But you touched on, you mentioned a lot of really cool things, and I want to know more about, you spent some time away from soccer. What was your stint as a rugby player like? What did that involve?
Well, basically, in 2005, Canada Games was coming up in Saskatchewan. So, I had to choose one or the other. So I chose rugby because I thought it was the best opportunity for me to get a medal at the Canada Games. Yeah. Let me see. Well, I started playing rugby when I was 15, and I played competitively up until I was about 22 or 23. But then I just stopped growing in size. So I was unable, I suppose, to play at the top flight in rugby once I fully developed as a physical being. So then I resorted back to soccer because I figured, physical presence isn't that much of an asset on the soccer field in comparison, of course, to the rugby field. I think in a lot of ways soccer is my first sport, and it's my true passion. but rugby, I think, presents me an opportunity to release a bit of tension that might arise from the game of soccer, which is a little too frequent, as a matter of fact.
Hey, it happens. Yeah. I admire rugby players. I admire the fact that rugby is such a culture sport here in Newfoundland. And I was recently having a conversation with a professor. He's from Europe. So he plays rugby in a different style than I would say, the West does. More technical. I think the tackles are cleaner. The game, it's not meant to go out and hurt anyone. Would you say that there's something like that here in the West where guys are out to get you? That's sort of my idea. That's my take when I watch rugby as a spectator. One who's never played. I was always curious to ask about something like that. Could you elaborate?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, rugby has always been considered to be a bit of a gentleman's game.
Yeah.
It was very much so an aristocratic game in England when they played it, earlier in the century. And I guess the paupers would be more the soccer players. So that's actually transitioned through the century, and now it's ubiquitous wherever you go and play rugby. It is very gentlemanly. Although it's a rough game, nobody's ever really out to hurt anybody. It's very unlike hockey.
Yeah.
I think hockey can be barbaric at times. You see fights, but in rugby, there's no element of intended violence whatsoever.
Good.
Very clean game, and it's one of the only sports that I've seen that a fierce competition will result in both teams sitting down and having a meal at the end of the game, which is a very common formality and gesture at the end of rugby matches. I mean, I've gone on tour all across Canada. I've visited Europe several times. And I mean, we'd go out and we'd just beat the snot out of each other against, an English or an Irish side, a Welsh side. And these boys are tough players. But we pride ourselves as being tough as well from Newfoundland. So we'd just go out and beat the snot out of each other. But then at the end of the game, we'd sit down, have a meal with the other team who would invite us so graciously into their clubhouse. And we sit down and have a chat, and everything was just peachy.
Wow. I wish more sports carried that, because when you say gentlemanly, that is the gentleman thing to do. It's a very, sportsmanlike way of going about things, and I can see a lot of people from the outside looking in not really taking notice of that, and that speaks volumes to that sport.
Absolutely, yeah, and you don't see it across many other sports. I know I'm so involved with soccer, I could probably make a comparison. It's more of a contrast, actually, because in soccer, whenever you travel across the province or you go to various, other clubs, there is that element of animosity. Mm-hmm. And there's not much of a understanding between two rival teams. There just isn't. After the game, you don't want to talk to your opponent. Unfortunately, that's the culture in soccer in Newfoundland, which is very much contrasted by the culture in Newfoundland and rugby, of course. Yeah, and it's sad to see, but I think rugby can stand as a bit of a
leader of sorts,
a leader and a prototype for what camaraderie and sportsmanship should be.
Nice, very well said. We got to go to a quick radio break, folks. 10 minutes past the hour here with Taedy O'Rourke. We've been talking rugby. We're going to continue on that trend until we transition back into soccer. So don't touch that dial. We will be right back here on 93.5 CHMR-FM. Do stay tuned. And we are back, folks. 93.5 CHMR-FM. We are at about 12 minutes past the hour here. We're going to go right up until 5 p.m. here. And this is a brand new time, brand new feel. I actually feel a little bit different in the studio. There's more people walking around here in the afternoon, Taedy, than there usually are in the morning. It seems as if in the other studio booth we have some people doing an orientation session of sorts here, and yeah, it's really, really cool. So folks, this is Varsity Life, where we are profiling Taedy O'Rourke, veteran soccer player here for the Memorial Seahawks, just finished up his 5th year, and we were speaking about rugby being a gentleman's game. And you were making the comparison, Taedy, with soccer, how it's totally different in terms of post-game stuff, what happens And I see a lot of that with basketball as well. Yeah. Having been a basketball player, captain of the team, co-captain with the current captain, actually, Caleb Gould, of the men's basketball team. But I've seen when I go to a stadium and I go to play a game, I don't want anything to do. I want to kill the other team. But after the game, you would expect everyone to be cool and friendly, but a lot of that carries off the court. And you build rivalries, which is good for sport, but I don't feel it's like a sportsmanlike thing. I don't know. What would you have to say about that? Yeah, well, like I said before, it's very, very, very uncommon to see in such competitive sports, especially at a level that we're talking about. I mean, not to speak so highly of, varsity sports, but it is a very high level. It's likely the pinnacle of basketball, soccer in our province, right? So when you get that type and brand of competitiveness, it's so unlikely to see camaraderie and sportsmanship after the 90 minutes is up, or after the 48 minutes in basketball is up. That's NBA 40 and 40. Okay, yeah. But after the 80 minutes is up on a rugby pitch, it's so unique in that everything within that 80-minute time period is just white, and both teams are so animous and friendly towards each other. It's remarkable. It really is. Wow. Yeah. Fantastic. I wish that a lot of these other sports can take maybe a page out of rugby's book, because here in St. John's there is a culture which is always associated as a Newfoundlander. You play rugby or you play hockey or you do something, but it's for the love of your team, the love of the sport, and they embody that in rugby. I gotta say, like Swiler's Club, the Rock, the Dogs, all of them. I know there's some competition between everyone, but it's always a pleasure to see them down at Swiler's pitch. Yeah, I'm a Swiler myself, actually. Okay. I just went back this last summer, actually, to play again. Yeah. Soccer. I mean, I've been removed from the game, I think, for about 5 years. Let me see, 27. Yeah, about 5 years I was removed from the rugby pitch. This year, leading up to our AUS home opener, I was putting a lot of myself into soccer. Yeah. I was on a basically I was on a 2-year training program, and I wanted to reach AUS playoffs. For those who don't know, we hosted AUS playoffs this past, when was it, November, I guess. Yeah, November. So we had a guaranteed playoff spot, and it was the first time we were in the playoffs for a while. So for 2 years, having known that, I just built myself up for this one game, right? But it came down to a point where I didn't leave enough for myself. So my father always told me, he said, if you're going to do anything, leave 10% for yourself. I didn't leave 10% for myself. So I guess I had a bit of an emotional breakdown. Yeah. And it happened during the summer of last year, about midsummer. We were playing against Holy Cross, and we lost. But not only did we lose, our captain and coach, Andrew Murphy, he was knocked out during that game. And I think everything that I put into sport culminated at that moment. I started questioning, why is it that I play this sport? If I continue to lose, and if I continue to involve myself with losing teams and a losing culture, and now all of a sudden some of my best friends are getting knocked out cold on the pitch, why am I doing this? And I wept in the shower for about 30 minutes after that game. I didn't leave 10% for myself. So I had to, reevaluate, and I said, I need to do something for me. So I went back and found the rugby pitch. Played about a half a dozen games before I knocked my ribs in pretty bad. And Murph at that point was conscious, so he said, Taedy, you're going to have to give the rugby up. We got playoffs coming up in a few weeks. And I said, yeah, that's fine. So I think mentally I was sound then, and I had my release, and I had my therapy on the rugby pitch. And it was something very much separated from soccer. So it was very therapeutic in that sense. And I was able to re-immerse myself on the soccer pitch with a completely new attitude and a reinvigoration that I've never seen before. So I owe it to rugby, I think, in a lot of ways, for my successes during this past summer, and perhaps even that playoff win in November against St. FX. Which was a fantastic win. I'm sure we're going to eventually get to that. But I want to touch very quickly, rugby obviously is something which you use to get you back into the groove. When things are going south, is there anything else that you do? Is there anything that you look back upon in the past that you can always remember and say, hey, this is the reason why I'm going for this? Anything in particular? I always try to think about the times growing up that I spent on Brother Egan Soccer Field. I grew
grew up on Leslie Street.
Okay.
And there's a soccer pitch just on that road. So, I mean, like, kids these days, they get grounded, they're not allowed to play video games. When I was grounded, I wasn't allowed to go to the soccer field, right? It was such a natural love affair with the sport back then, and it was so pure. I'd hang out there with some of my friends, you know, from morning until night, until I had, you know, begrudgingly had to come home. But that was where my passion for the sport was really born. It's just, unadulterated childhood soccer play is just so nice. And I think that gets forgotten when competition gets introduced to children in general, I think. And the game starts to become about something a little more than just the fun of it or the love of it or the passion for it. So once a competitive game was introduced to me and I started really caring about goals, you become lost in a lot of ways, and you start to muddle the big picture. So whenever I'm feeling stressed or the game's becoming too much for me, I try to look back on those days, you know, when it was, you know, almost the sun was coming down and we were still playing soccer, you know what I mean? I try to look back on those days, and that gives me an idea of what, you know, my childhood self, you know, would want me to do and how to play as well. I mean, that works into the game as well, because if you play like a child, I think there's something so pure about that. But if you start confusing why it is you play, then you're going to play as a tense athlete, and that's no fun at all.
My father always tells me, you know, you don't look like you're enjoying yourself out there. You look like you're not in the game. You're so rigid, you can't do anything. All of the moves that you practice, all of the running that you do, all the weight work that you do, when it comes time to the game and you're tense and you have all of this extra baggage with you, it's very, very tough to produce. And when you say that you're playing like a kid, playing unadulterated, just fun, for the love of the game, just for yourself, for your teammates, that I've always found has been a motivator for me. Yeah.
You said earlier that I was a veteran. It's kind of strange to hear that. But I think my transition into being a veteran wasn't so much, you know, an advancement of skill or I didn't get stronger or faster, but I think my mental game was developed much more. I'm 27 now, and I've never felt so confident in my abilities. Am I a better player now as I was when I was 22? Probably not. I likely lost a couple of strides, but it all counts between the years. Upstairs is where my game is played. And I'm glad that I've matured in that respect, because now I can go into games with confidence. And I can also have, I guess, strategies for coping with different mental blockages during the course of a 90-minute game. When I was 22, I was very unable to do that. Now that I'm 27, you know, I can hit the pitch in the biggest game that I've ever played, which was, by the way, last November.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a butterfly in my stomach. Starting to speak here today with you, I have more butterflies in my stomach than I did in that game. And that was the most important game of my entire life.
Wow.
Yeah, but mentally, I think I progressed so much since I was younger in order to, I guess, cope with that and figure out some strategies in order to get myself in that type of mentality. Yeah.
I'll tell you, when you're speaking about that, you're saying when you were 22. I myself am 22 right now, so I'm looking at myself. You know, I'm inspired in a sense. I'm amongst your aura with the way you're speaking. It has such, you know, wisdom, in fact, behind it. Not because of whatever. It's simply because you've put in the time, you've gone through the struggles, and now you're in a position where you can really use that as motivation. Younger folks can look up to you and stuff like that. And I can imagine a lot of rookies this year definitely were blessed in a sense to have you as a coach. Maybe a strong word, not as a coach, but as a mentor. And I wish I had something like that growing up, particularly. So, you know, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it was actually a lot of fun working with a lot of the rookies this year. Carter Mackey, Kyle Williams in particular. They were huge assets to our team. And in actual fact, won a game against Mount Allison. Both myself and Carter Mackey were sent off. So, like...
Might I ask why?
Well, I'll give you a rundown of what happened. It's just funny, you know, because me, the veteran, and him, you know, the junior. But, oh, God, that was just a mess. Carter was involved with some sort of altercation in the corner, and the whistle had blown. Some guy just, like, you know, stepped up to Carter and put his chest in him. And Carter, I suppose naively so, reached around, grabbed him, and just threw the guy to the ground. That's not to say that the guy didn't embellish it, because he certainly did, and he sold it.
Okay.
He didn't leave much of a decision for the referee, let's say. Mm-hmm. So as, I think, a leader on the field, I immediately, you know, sprinted over to Carter just to, I suppose, act as somewhat of a mediator. But then their goalkeeper started storming out of their 18-yard box. And he ran, I'd say it was probably about 25 or 30 yards to get right in my face. Now, I'm not quite sure if he knew what type of character I had. I think he did, because, like, the entire game, like, these guys just would not get out of my ear. So I don't know if he was thinking that I was prone to some sort of blow-up. Anyways, this guy was, like, an imposing figure. He was about, like, 6'5", 200 pounds, and, like, what am I? 5'9", 160. You know what I mean? So I'm looking up at this monster, looking like Manuel Neuer, and I grab him. I grab him by the chest, and I say, "What are you doing?" And I'm not going to say, like, exactly what I said, because it's a little bit, you know, out of bounds. But I grab him by the chest, just by the shirt, and I start shaking him aggressively. And I realized that my better sense sort of triggered, and I let go of him, because I knew I couldn't let my team down, because, you know, likely Carter's going to be sent off. We can't go down to 9 men, because 10 men is a deficit in and of itself. If we go down 2 men, I mean, the game is pretty much over. Funny enough, actually, we outplayed them in the remaining 25 minutes. That being said, I didn't think my actions were red card worthy, but the linesman had a chat with the referee, and they decided to send me off. Now, Carter was pretty emotional in that state, so I guess I had to sort of go over to him and put the arm around the shoulder and sort of calm him down.
Big brother.
Yeah, I suppose so. So we went into the dressing room then, let some steam off. We changed, came out, and watched the rest of the match. Turned out the game didn't really matter a whole lot in the end. So, I mean, it's a good story, if anything else.
Hey, it seems like you're full of them, honestly. So you're going to finish up now. You've done all of your 5 years of eligibility.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of athletes I know wish that the game could go on longer, but it's such a special thing to play for a university, and especially here in St. John's, where Memorial is the only university. So there's such a commitment everyone has to that, and everyone wants to step up and play for the university. Mm-hmm. But when you move on, you know, what do you think, you know, people are going to remember you by? Is there anything that you'd like to be remembered by as a 5-year player?
Well, you know, time is so fleeting when it comes to university. You know, a lot of people don't realize it in the first or second years. You know, when your third year creeps around, you're like, okay, I got some maneuverability, I got some time to work with here. When the fourth year comes around, that's when you start panicking, saying, my God, you know, I don't really have much time left. The fifth year is bittersweet, because you know, a lot of people do immerse themselves in the program, sometimes for only 4 years. They don't really get to see that 5-year accomplishment, just because of the nature of a degree length. It's bittersweet. I consider it, you know, an achievement in one sense that I made it this far. I was able to give 5 years for my school and for my community as a whole. What I want to be remembered by, I suppose, is my passion for the game. Yeah. I always say to people, you know, I'm not quite good with my feet, as in my skill isn't that great, and I probably don't give myself as much credit as I deserve. But where my skill lacks, I'll always be a worker. I'm a workhorse in the center of midfield. I win the tackles, I put my head up, and I pass the ball to somebody who's better than me, likely someone like Matthew Hamlin, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the game is easy. Pass the ball to someone who's better than you are. So that's what I'm doing. Make it a simple game, and when you don't have the ball, go win it. And give it back to your teammates. I was always a hard worker. I was always a passionate player, and despite my height, you know, I was always good in the air because, you know, ferocious, I suppose. I had hunger. I always had hunger.
Taedy, ferocious, hungry. I love it. Ambitious, even.
Yeah.
It's very. There's only so many people that actually can say that they went through a 5-year program. Mm-hmm. And I know playing basketball, I've only ever seen 2 players go through: Jason Shepard and Mark Woodland. Right. If you remember those 2 guys.
I went to school with Mark Woodland in Gonzaga, actually, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I wondered myself, I mean, you know, how in the world am I supposed to get to that? I always envisioned that I would, but my career, I stopped it short, had a couple concussions, took a step back as a precautionary, that's the one. My head is just filled with physics right now. Precautionary measure just to avoid, that kind of stuff, forgetting words, you know what I mean? Just, and I always look back, I know I have 2 years of eligibility, but in a sense, it's something that I think has moved on. I'm moving on with my life. But you always wish that you had that. And you definitely will always be able to hold on to that, not just for the accomplishments, but for the experiences and for the journey and the process, which is a 5-year career. Yeah,
I think it wasn't so much, the last game I played being the pinnacle of my university career. It was more so the process by which I took to get to that last game, which was really what mattered to me in the end. A game in November, I could have not played that game and still been content because of the journey I took, which you just spoke of. As well, I suppose you and I have a little more in common than you think. You took a couple of concussions, obviously, in your seasons. My third year, as a matter of fact, I took 2 concussions in the same season and played just 2 games. And the road to recovery is such a hard one when it comes to any type of brain injury whatsoever. I mean, I played the first game of the season in that September. I took a knock against CBU. It took me 6 weeks to recover from that. God bless Krista Mullally-Dobbin, because, she was by my side the entire time. I saw her every day for 6 weeks, and she nursed me back to health, thank God. And I took a road trip to the University of New Brunswick. Played on a Saturday, was fine. Played on a Sunday, took another concussion. And they are so impactful, Theo. You know as well as I do. I went into the dressing room after that game, and New Brunswick, it must have been, it felt like -9, 8 or 9 at that point of the season. It was nearing November. And I remember going into the dressing room, taking a shower, and just utterly, succumbing to this panic state. I had to go outside in my boxers. It was freezing cold out, and I was trembling. I didn't know what was happening to me. And it was the most frightening event, I think, in my entire life, because I felt like I was going to die. My world was just coming in on top of me. It's such a severe and life-altering injury when you take a concussion. It's absolutely traumatizing. And thank God my network of people were so close to me. I mentioned Krista Mullally-Dobbin. My family supported me the entire time, as well as my larger Seahawks community. They were there every step of the way, and I got to thank them for the recovery process, because they put in just as much work as I did. And alas, I came back the next year and had a healthy 4th year, minus a broken hand, which they let me play with a cast over it, so that was all right. And it looked cool too.
It looked cool. With that, I'll let you guys ponder about all of that which was just said, as we are going to go into a quick radio break here. 32 minutes past the hour. Do stay tuned. We have a lot more to talk about with Taedy O'Rourke here on the Varsity Life, 93.5 CHMR-FM. Three minutes past the hour here from the CHMR studios on the Memorial Campus, guys. This is a Monday, March the 23rd, and we're here joined very special guest, Taedy O'Rourke. Folks, you can check out anything that's Varsity Life on Facebook. Just go to your search bar, search up Varsity Life. After the episode, maybe later this evening or the next couple days, I'll have this interview up on YouTube. There will be a link to that clip. And you guys will be able to relive this one for on and on and on as many times as your heart desires. But Taedy, just to conclude, talking about the concussions, you were talking about a feeling which was coming over you. In the break there, we were speaking about the similarities that we both experienced on the second one. And to me, I along with my very first concussion, I just want to go on a ramble here talking about that. After my first one, it happened through a set of circumstances which I do not want to get into, not for going on the record anywhere. I'll let your imagination run wild. But the whole point is I pinched 2 nerves in my neck, and I lost control basically of my right arm. So a lot of the time that I was nursing my head, I was able to have more time because I really was left immobilized in my right arm. So I wasn't able to play basketball. I couldn't lift it to shoot a basketball. And I got over that pretty quickly, about 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And you said your first one you got over in about 6 with Chris's help. But the second one, it came under, just in a basketball practice, and, it was an errant hit straight to the face. I just wasn't prepared for it, completely unintentional. And just the way I felt afterwards, I couldn't see, like my eyes were going crazy, black and white, going everywhere. But when I finally was able to open them, like you said, there was something that was coming over me, a tingling sensation climbing up my arms, up my legs, into my tongue, along my lips, coming over my chest, and like you said, hard to breathe, just feel like there was something sitting on top of you. And it was a very nerve-wracking experience, one that kind of leaves you traumatized and lasts for a long period of time afterwards. I know for myself personally, I'm back in the gym making it happen, but that was June of almost, over a year ago for sure. It took me the latter part of a year to actually get back and feeling comfortable and confident. Those concussions are terrible.
Yeah, especially when they're consecutive like that. You're just coming over your first one, and then bam, the second one hits you, almost immediately when you get back into the game. Not only, does it impact your physical life, you can't exercise for however long, but it affects the classroom as well. I remember having to work with my professors who were very sympathetic at the time, as a matter of fact, and I'm really glad that they were, because, I'd sit in the classroom and just stare at my books. I'd get dizzy, I'd start getting headaches, and it was just an awful experience. And that semester was probably one of the most difficult I've ever had in this institution. Nevertheless, I came out of it on top and back into the 4th year, which is great. Yeah.
Very, very, funny actually, when we were talking about similarities, you having gotten back into the game at 22, I'm 22 right now, but that happened in your 3rd year. All of that drama came down in my 3rd year as well. So I wasn't able to see my 4th year come into fruition, but I know for you it's been a long climb back, and safe to say it seems like you reached the top. You definitely came out on top in that battle.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, it was all building up to this one game in November that we had. We were guaranteed a playoff position. So like I said, I took a 2-year process to try to ready myself, both physically and mentally, for that game. The 4th year went, I guess, well enough, but our 5th year this year, my 5th year this year was probably the best season I've had the privilege to play with any team in my entire career.
Really?
Yeah.
And you've been playing, like you said, since 5.
Yeah, but I've had a love and hate relationship with soccer ever since I was, I would imagine, 11 years old in my first, all-star team selection.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's not get into that. Let's go into Seahawks soccer. You guys finished up the year. You were ranked 7th in the league, just 3 points behind Dalhousie.
Right.
Finishing with a record 4 wins, 8 losses, and a tie. And that was a better season for you guys. You guys picked up some good players. Can you talk about some of those recruits that you guys brought in, and really helped you guys get to that and make it into the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, some of our really important and key first years, like I mentioned before, Carter Mackey and Kyle Williams were paramount in our offense. They attacked down our 2 flanks and really had a lot of dynamic movement, running in behind back lines. They really played off well, but I think our central striker, Aaron Anstey, he's a big body, so he could lay off balls for both of the wingers coming in at pace on good angles. So having those 2 players was a very key asset. Tyler Forsey, I think he actually had a year played under his belt a couple of years back. Nevertheless, he returned this year, and he's been the top goal scorer in the province in Challenge Cup for the last 2 years.
46 goals? Was it?
Yeah, the kid just bangs in goals. Like, that's what he does. He scores goals. So having that threat in our offense was so big, because this kid literally can score a goal at any moment. It doesn't matter how your team is playing. He's an X factor that can run in behind a back line and just bang one in out of nowhere against the run of play. So having that having that asset really helped us out, because he was really an X factor for us, and he was threatening as well. Whereas defenses would certainly focus on defending him, which would create gaps elsewhere in their defense. So not only was he, a dynamo in his attack, but he was also kind of a distraction for our competition. Andrew Ranson, our goalkeeper, I can't speak highly enough of this guy. He came out of left field,
totally out of the blue,
to play in the back of our net, which was crazy. We were trying to recruit a goalkeeper all summer long, and we just couldn't get one. And Hansen just came from absolutely nowhere. And I think he was going to initially try out as a center back until he told our coach Scott Betts that he has bit of experience in goalkeeping. So we tried him out, and he lasted all season. He stood on his head during our quarterfinal game against St. FX, a game we ended up winning. So I can't speak any more praise about our number one.
Well, here I'm looking at an article, and this is the article from the Telegram, which was posted last September, right about the beginning of your season, talking about it was the article for Tyler Forsey.
Gotcha.
But this is sort of what your coach had to say. If you remember the article, he said, "It's definitely an exciting time for us. There's pressure to produce because we don't just want to be the team that gets into playoffs because we're hosting."
Right.
Now, you guys ended up in the 7th seed, which in fact was you got in because you were hosting, just 3 points away from the last playoff spot. But in a lot of ways, circumstances work out, so you get a little bit lucky like that, and you come in, you as a host team, you win that first round, and who knows, man? Maybe you guys were able to go up. It was just a tough matchup against UNB.
Oh my God!
That's sort of where I was going to hold that whole segue was into that UNB match.
Well, the third-ranked team in the country is a formidable force, regardless of when you're playing them. Let alone when you just went to war against St. FX, who I think were they would have been 4th ranked, I suppose, overall. 6 played 4. Third ranked. Yeah.
Number 3 team. Yeah.
Yeah. So after going to
who, mind you, were on a 5-game win streak coming into that. As I'm looking here, they were 5 games in a row to finish the season.
Cool. Yeah. Well, we absolutely battled our hearts out that Friday night against St. FX. A 90-minute war. And then
I was there. I remember it was incredible.
Yeah, it was exhilarating for everybody involved, I feel. But then to go out less than 24 hours later and expect to beat the 3rd-ranked team in the nation, that's a lot to ask for, Theo. That's not to make an excuse. All credit goes to the University of New Brunswick, because they were absolutely phenomenal all season, as they were last season. I'm not sure the results in CIS, but I'm sure they came close. Probably the best team I've ever played against is University of New Brunswick.
To me, when I was watching on that Saturday, it was a professional team out there. That's the way that they carried themselves through the warm-ups, the way that they executed, the way that they can condone their behavior towards the referees and against you guys.
Yeah.
They didn't care who you were. They were there to play the game. Very professional team. It almost looked as if they brought in professionals to play that game. That's sort of the feel I had as a spectator.
Right. Well, there's extensive recruitment universities, and I think UNB is one of them. It's funny, you look at rosters across the AUS, especially in soccer. Pick up a roster from the CBU pamphlet. It'll say, Bermuda, England, Ireland. You got people from all across Canada. You got people from the United States, the Dominican Republic, Eastern Europe, you name it. There's a plethora of nationalities going through that roster. You look at the Seahawks roster. St. John's, Mount Pearl, St. John's, Newfoundland, Mount Pearl, Torbay, St. John's. Then you might get like a Halifax in there randomly. I think we had 2 boys from Halifax this season, Austin Blades and Andrew Anson. But for the most part, it's just St. John's, Mount Pearl, a couple from Torbay here or there, and St. Lawrence, Newfoundland. And I think there's a lot of pride to be taken in that, because every roster, barring ours, is completely flush with various nationalities because of their extensive recruitment programs. We're a homebred team, right? So in order to go out against a team like St. FX that recruits so largely and beat them on home soil, there's a lot of pride to be taken in that, I think. And even to go out and hit the field against an international team of all-stars, it's really fulfilling. Let me say that, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would like to draw a parallel between your team and the women's team, who in fact went all the way, won the AUS. You know, they made it to the CIS. I think they're a good candidate for the future years to come. But just specifically about their roster, there was a core group of them coming up all through the ranks. You know, people think that it's just out of nowhere now the Seahawks are winning. No, this has been a team that has been growing since they were kids.
Absolutely.
And it's about 9 of them. When we had Jessie Noseworthy on, who was captain of the team this past year, she spoke about that and said that they won the under-16s, the 17s, 18s, went to compete nationally with the club teams. It was just that core group of girls. And now they all happen to go, minus a few, all to Memorial, which is a huge addition for that program.
Oh, yeah.
But now this is a team that honestly is a nationally ranked team. They're national caliber.
Absolutely. And, you know, I can't say I wasn't surprised to see them bow out in the first game of CIS, because I think in that type of tournament you do need a bit of experience, right? It was their first AUS title. They went into CIS. I'm sure they were shell-shocked by the caliber of competition that they were facing. That being said, in subsequent and coming years, I feel as if with that game under their belt, with that CIS appearance under their belt, they'll be able to use that experience, and you know, more leaders, I suppose, will start to you know, pop their heads up within that team. But you're right, these girls have been playing with each other for such a young age. It's Jake Stanford's team in large part. He's the
architect behind all of it.
Yeah, he's the men's coach for Holy Cross Challenge Cup in the province, but he coached these girls. I think his daughter Noelle Stanford was on the team to a silver medal at Club Nationals. It was the St. John's team, which we hosted actually last summer. And in a lot of ways, you know, he shaped the team into, you know, a formidable AUS contender. Walt Maven, of course, all credit goes to him as well. Fantastic coach, organized, tactful. He did a fabulous job. He got Coach of the Year last year at our athletic banquet. I'm sure he's going to get it again this year. But the mixture of that breed of girl, of woman athlete, on top of sound coaching from both Jake Stanford and Walt Maven is just a recipe for success. It really is.
That was such a well-articulated response. It was just impressive. Going forward, this is definitely a team to watch. You, the Seahawks, everyone have the year-end banquet coming up at I believe it's at the end of classes on the 2nd.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken from previous experience. But you know, you yourself, I was looking at doing myself a little bit of digging, and you in fact won an award last year as the Friends of Soccer. I had it up here. I have it here actually. Here we go. Trying to find it. It was you and Alex Morgan who won the Friends of Seahawks Soccer Award.
Yeah.
Do you foresee any future awards coming up here now as a 5th-year veteran, one of the stars of the team? Not, you know, trying to gloat or anything, but do you see anything like that coming for you or your team or any of your teammates?
Certainly. Well, I think Matthew Hamlin will be a good contender for our team MVP. I mean, he's been just the core of that back line for the last 5 years. What a player. That being said, we had so many standouts this year, so I mean, there's going to be contenders for that Most Valuable Player award. I myself won't be one of them. Like I said, I'm not good with my feet. You know, but Aaron Anstey had such a fabulous season. I could see him perhaps fighting Matthew Hamlin for that award. And oh God, we had so many stars this season. Yeah, which is, I guess, you know, why we would consider it a successful season, because we won that playoff game. Awards for myself, I don't know. When I'm allowed to divulge, I think my coach might have nominated me for one, so we'll see what happens with that.
Fair enough. Yeah. We'll let that play out whichever way it's going to play out.
Yeah.
Let's you know, you're done now. What's your, other than winning that first round game, what was your favorite moment as a Seahawk? Do you have, it's tough to pick just from one, but if there was one which stood out above the rest, was there, could you name that and talk about that?
Well, other than shedding tears of happiness at the end of that 90 minutes in November, I remember actually another very memorable game against St. FX that we played years ago. God, to pinpoint the year would be difficult for me. It might have been 2010 or 11. we were playing St. FX on Middle Smallwood Field, and we were down 5-0 going into the second half. I remember Zach Hines scoring a hat trick. I'm not sure who got the other 2 goals. We came back from a 5-0 lead. And I was just, I was being a bit of a hothead in the middle of the entire game. The game seemingly was over to us, so I decided to try to get under the skin of my opponents and see how much they'd crack. There was one particular midfielder that, we exchanged yellow cards. He got me once, I got him back in a rough challenge, tit for tat type of thing. And I guess I just kept provoking him. And this was the very last game of the season, and we weren't in a playoff spot, but they were. So anyways, he was provoked, obviously, by me and took his second yellow card, got sent off with a red card, and had some choice words for me afterwards. And it was a hard smack. I took a hard smack, but I didn't mind because he missed his next playoff game. So I think I won that competition.
Definitely coming out on top.
Not to gloat, but nah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Taedy, what are your plans this summer? In terms of soccer, sport, what's next for you? Because I know it doesn't stop after university.
No, I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I do need to reassess because I guess the main goal in my soccer career is behind me right now. So I really need to justify continuing playing soccer, because I know how much of a stressor it is sometimes on me. I know what type of physical shape I need to be in order to play it. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it 100%, or at least 90%, like I said before.
Should be 90, honestly.
Yeah. And it takes a lot out of you. This summer, I'm not quite sure. I'm definitely going to play Challenge Cup with my same club team, but I'd like to play a lot more rugby. That's what I'm happy doing, really, is a nice balance between the two sports, because if I'm not playing one, I'm just going to miss it so much. I can't imagine what it would be like not to be playing soccer, because it's been, so prevalent in my life over the past, 5 years, and I've worked towards it so ardently that if I stop playing, who knows, I might fall apart. But I'd like to really balance both soccer and rugby this summer, hopefully. Looking forward also to a trip to Montreal in May, hopefully, with the Swilers, so that'll be a bit of fun. Mm-hmm. Hopefully I don't come back, in 2 pieces or anything, so I can continue playing in the summer. Yeah, I'd like to find a nice balance between the two sports.
Totally.
Yeah.
You finished an English degree, is that correct?
Word up.
Word up. Nice, great way to embody that.
Yeah.
But you're still taking courses here. You decided to take courses to play that 5th year.
Yeah.
Is there more schooling for you?
There is. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever get out of this place, to be completely honest. In actual fact, I evenly distributed a course load amongst the 2 semesters, the 2 past semesters, including this one. I'm currently completing some prerequisites to get into the faculty of social work. Fingers crossed. Put in my application not long ago. Hopefully I'll be in there for next winter. What I'll do next September without university, I have no idea. I haven't had a September without university in quite some time, so how I'll adapt to that, I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll be amidst the coaching staff of the Seahawks.
That'd be a great way to continue your career. I honestly, personally, myself, started coaching a grade 9 boys basketball team this past weekend. We won the grade 9 provincial championships, so nice. That was
Congrats.
A good feel. Thank you. But the whole point of the matter is, you want to continue to grow as someone who's involved in such a sport for so long. Mm-hmm. If you can't keep playing, there's got to be other ways, whether that's as a referee or as a builder, as a coach, or even just someone on the administrative section. There's always ways to continue progressing the sport, which you gain so much from, mm-hmm. and you can see so much coming in the future.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there, Theo, is that what I've gained from the sport now, I feel as if I need to give back to my community. Coaching kind of fell onto me. Scott Betts, my coach, he asked me if I wanted to do the St. John's under-18 boys team last year, and me alongside Aaron Anstey decided to take that on. I had a great time, but, now more opportunities are arising where people are asking me to coach various teams. I'm currently the assistant coach for the Newfoundland and Labrador Soccer Association Boys Under 12 team. These opportunities just keep coming up, and I can't say no because I know what the community has given me, and now I need to give back. I have to give back.
Totally. With just about 5 minutes left here on the show, Taedy, I wish we had more time. I know we could go for what seems forever.
Yeah.
But do you have any shout-outs that you'd like to hand out? Any thank yous? Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank my coach, Scott Betts, who initially gave me the opportunity to play with the Seahawks. He actually gave me a chance when it seemed like nobody else would. He reintroduced me back into the game of soccer and reinvigorated my passion for the sport. So I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for Scott Betts. He's been a very important figure in my life. Secondly, Matthew Hamlin, my boy, who played his 5th year alongside me this year, and it was an emotional roller coaster all season long with that guy. And we play on the same club team. We have a mutual understanding. We've built a rapport on the field, and it seems like every time I pass him the ball, like I don't even have to think. I just know where he'll be. Hopefully he considers the same for me. So Chewy, yeah, absolutely, shout out for him. And lastly, Karen Murphy, absolutely, our new athletic director, who's taken the program and tried to shape it in different ways, in positive directions, and we're moving forward as a community because of Karen and a lot of the endeavors that she seeks.
Very well said. If I just have one thing to say about Karen is I know that she's had a very difficult year this year. Yeah. However, I believe her efforts will not be in vain. There's a lot of good things happening in our Seahawks community, a lot of positives that we can draw upon in the future, and I'm excited for September to roll around again. Yeah. Hopefully everyone puts in a good summer's worth of work and stays in shape, comes back and gets ready to go challenge again,
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, with that, folks, we got to cut it here. The next group is trying to get on here in the CHMR studios. Folks, Varsity Life, this is the show. Go on Facebook. You guys know what it is. This interview will be up there in the future, in the very near future. And I just want to say thanks, Taedy. It has been a very memorable interview. I didn't do much talking. I sat back and listened, and it was my pleasure to have you on here today.
No, pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Theo, for having me.
Folks, with that, enjoy the rest of your week. This is a Monday. We will be back next week. Not exactly sure with who or if at all. Stay tuned to the Facebook page. If you see me, ask me in the streets or in the classroom or in the hallways. Doesn't matter where it is. So glad for everyone to be here. If you're adjusting and you think that this new 4 p.m. time slot is better, please let me know. If you wish the 10 a.m. ones to come back, let me know. I want all the feedback you possibly can. So with that, we're going to sign off here. This is Theo Sonoev and very special guest here today, Taedy O'Rourke. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys next week.